Okay, this lesson for the Koine Project class concerns one text. It's John chapter 1, verse 12. John 1:12. And some of you have encountered conversations about the text, and there's been banter. And when we have a text like that where there is some interest and might be controversy, you remember we view it the same way a diver views water that's being agitated. It's a good time to jump in. So we'll look at this and see if it helps us with the use of our Koine. Now, you remember we have a combination here, so let's just say who, and then this is dative, to the ones. And then there was that post-positive conjunction. You remember that? Just translate it, but. You remember Jesus had been rejected, and now, but to the ones, but to the ones, and then it's Laban here, Laban. That's from lambano. Anyway, so, and that's second Aorist. So, but to the ones who received, and of course, Altone him. We can capitalize that. Then we have Doken, he gave. And then we have exousion. That's accusative. Notice it's not exousia, it's exousion. He gave authority. And we have that tekna, theou, children of God. And then we have that word Aeneas. There we go. And that's from genomai. That's second aorist. And it's, of course, active. And it's to become. Authority to become children of God. Tois, to the ones. To the ones, notice that matches this also. To the ones, and then it's that present active participle. To the ones who are, and I'm going to go ahead and add already, believing. There we have our ing, but notice that already. That was that lesson we had where sometimes the present tense, and we used the account in Acts, and I'll include that description from the Ezra project where Peter said, the Lord is already healing you, and the person immediately was healed. So I'll include that lesson from the Ezra project. We've already discussed it before, had a lesson about it, so it'll just be iterative practice for some of you, and it's good to review this. To the ones believing into, that's ace. Remember, my goodness. I started writing the hina clause because I'm trying to get ahead of myself. There's two of those coming up at the end of the lesson, so remind me, John 20:31. So into to the onoma name autu him, name of him. You notice autu, altone. You notice that. So I think we've got it. So, but to the ones who received him, he gave authority to become children of God. to the ones who are already believing. And you remember the purpose of the Gospel of John was written in order that you might believe. And that is to I believe yeah, I think that's it. Aorist, active, subjunctive. Yes. And that as ones who are believing, and I believe that is to, oh, misspelled it. You can check it out. I think it's that. Yes, and as ones who are believing, so it's a present active participle. That would be nominative. This was dative, so present active participle, dative, masculine, plural. For those of you that are using this, masculine, plural, so that will help you. Now, what was said, why I brought this in is because by the time we get to this text, these people are already believing, and we know that prior to already believing is the punctual action believe. We remember 1 John 5:1. It says the ones who are already believing, always, so we have the always, the ing, continuous, we have the already believing, then we have that perfect active participle had previously, so John was showing that fathered out from God, fathered out from, and it's the God was antecedent to the participle. So the people who are believing, that's children of God, are said to have been fathered out from God. And nowhere in the text have we found being fathered or generated or regenerated to precede the finite verb believe. So here's our finite verb and believe. So the gospel person believes the gospel. So when we hear people say, do you support regeneration, that regeneration precedes faith, we reframe it as some say it, to state, do you believe someone is fathered out from God prior to that person in that simple act to believe the gospel? Well, now that's a different story because we know the Father is very tenacious and absolutely loyal to his Son, so that the omnific symbiosis within the Godhead would not even allow us to entertain the idea that God the Father would father someone who had not first believed into his Son. Now, we have another lesson we can discuss where there's a text in the Bible that says, the Father loves you all because you all are loving me, and that's phileo, befriending him. So we know the condition, so that whatever the strain is and the stress is, and thus, let me look some of this up. We have a couple minutes because I don't like to leave us with questions. You remember you can go to your blueletterbible.org, Blue Letter. We can look up John 20. Well, let me check this one out first. There we go. Okay. John 1:12. You see, you can just scroll down. I don't even know how to show that. But anyway, you can scroll down and go to, on your Blue Letter Bible, your app, so it's real user-friendly. Now, let's see how badly I did here. And we'll check this out. So, but to the ones who received him, he gave authority, techna. Oh, I don't know why I did that. See, there's an error. If someone didn't catch me, you're in trouble. That I forgot. That's an infinitive. There's no reason to have that on there. And so, genesthai, tois, pistu, usin in ace to onomana too. Very good. Good job. So I missed one. That's really sad. Give myself a sad face. And then now let's go to John 20. Those of you that are actually working on this stuff, and I know you, as I did, I like the texts that are, I guess we'll call them controversial. It doesn't mean it's controversial for us because we know we have a text. So if we had energy for controversy or conflict or contradiction, we would be better served to expend it in our research. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, pistu. Okay, very good. Check, got that one. Smiley face. Give yourself some credit. And then pistu. Oh, very good, very good. Good job. So now we can go and notice we have really the real reason now we have this text and the purpose of it was so that the reader, hearer, listener might come to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing as a believer, one who is always believing, already believing, might have life in his name. So this is more about the ones who are already believing are the ones who received him, made the reception. They received authority. You remember in our history, especially of the Lord's churches, who did not wish to be tolerated, which is quite an insult. It's not freedom. Some today even advocate tolerance as opposed to intolerance, supposing those are the only two options, and yet freedom is not even, well, tolerance and intolerance isn't even capable of being compared. It requires to be contrasted with tolerance. Tolerance is like someone giving an indulgence that they might modify or set the terms and conditions, somewhat like we don't really know very many favorable relationships where one person is saying, well, I'm tolerating you. So when we fled, God's people did, to assure being led by Christ and recognizing that we had no sovereign but God and no king but Jesus, you can see the implications because at the time this was stated and this was recorded, John's already writing after the fact of the life of Christ, and he's recounting now that when these people received authority to change their status, change their status to that of children of God. They were, prior to that, their status was to be subservient to Judaizers, the constant vitriol and banter between Pharisee, Sadducee, just as Matthew 11, Jesus said, John was in the uninhabited areas preaching, and they said he had a demon. Jesus was in among the people in the city villages, eating and drinking with the publicans and the sinners, and they slander him as a winebibber and a glutton. He said, so on one side you had the pipers, and on the other side you had the pouters, and that's exactly the predicament God's children have always been in. So as this text, for example, has been absconded, confiscated by unauthorized users of it, that's why they abuse it, that is, use it for something other than its purpose. So, for example, at Landmark, where I pastor and oversee the congregation as its pastor, that is, teacher, and we recognize only Jesus as the head of Landmark Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Arkansas, that covenant community that enjoys all the rights and privileges thereunto appertaining because of the blood of Jesus Christ being that by which our covenant has been ratified, and we live according to his teachings. We thrive in the new covenant. So when we heard the gospel, listened to the gospel, and learned from the gospel, and obeyed the gospel, trusted Jesus Christ for everlasting life, we then certainly find ourselves prepared to receive him into the to be received rather than rejected. Notice received as opposed to rejected. And then the authority to come to change our status to children of God. So Landmark, as truly Christ's body, 100% truly his body under his headship, we enjoy this authority and to conduct our lives. And if you'll notice in the context, as you go from the opening prologue of John, for example, and you move on, you immediately are run into John the Baptist, who bore witness and testified, and then you are already on your way with his students who had already listened, that is, learned and came to Jesus, and then John came and preached mind after or in midst of the message concerning the kingdom of God, that self-disclosed expression of the monarchical reign of God as revealed in Jesus Christ. So all of this is consistent with the kingdom, the sovereigndom, the authority, the status that we have the honor and privilege of appertaining and enjoying because we receive. But this was not our moment of regeneration because we believe the gospel. That had already taken place. So somewhere in the past, but when we get to John 6, we can go and see that Jesus had said that those who listen to the prophets, that is, learn from them, come to him. So it's a good lesson. Enjoy it. And if you do make a mistake when you write all this out, go check your answers. And then, we always review, revise. But this is good iterative practice. It does resolve a lot of difficulties, but if it's only for you to engage in disputation about fallible constructed realities like Calvin's ism or Jake's Arminianism, you really might be overlooking something about which this is there. And you might be coming closer to those who reject him rather than receive him, because this is a big deal to God's people for 2,000 years, being authorized by our King to conduct his kingdom business here on the earth. So you have a blessed day and enjoy this lesson.